Hi, welcome everybody to the Social Circus panel at the St. John's International Circus Fest. My name is Benny Malone. I'm the Artistic Executive Director of Wonderful Productions. We're so glad to have everyone here. Thank you. So glad to be part of Circiniq, which is really driven by Cirque Hors Piste and has such great membership. We've been talking about the future of the circus and diversity in the circus and where we're going to go. Well, this is where we're going. This is how it's going to go. This is how it's going to happen. And it's happening. So proud to be part of this group. Wonderbolt's been involved in circus outreach for over 30 years, and to meet all these like-minded people and have that energy. We keep talking about how we got to interconnect. Well, these people are interconnecting incredibly. There's going to be a little performance piece first, and then it's going to be hosted by Marilou from Cirque Hors Piste and Mike from Tupic Act, which is the Arctic Circus Troupe. So they're going to kick it off with a performative piece. I can't remember what Dean called it, but performative element. And then we're going to have a panel and an open, wide discussion and a look at where we are with social outreach, which the circus does so well. Okay, thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of the presentation.
We all understand to live is to struggle, no? I'm here when you fall. Nous comprenons tous. Vivre, c'est lutter, n'est-ce pas? Je suis là quand tu tombes.
Real desperation, kindness, acceptance, patience, creating real change.
Difficile, ça. Construction à l'envers, sans effacer.
Open space inland, enjoying what is out there, knowing who we are.
Be who you are now. You will not be denied here. Let go and be free.
Have you ever heard the story of the little circus girl? She traveled the world. Her life was a whirl. Many shunned the flippant lady. She has no home, and her life is lazy. But no other statement could be more wrong. She's lived many lives, both short and long. Her house isn't made of brick or of stone. Her family's not blood. The stage is her home.
Hi.
I think it's working.
Okay. Yeah. Testing. Hi there, everyone. Tunga Wow. Welcome. So you just saw one of the exercises we did yesterday. Uh-huh.
Good. So because we have a social circus panel, we'll make you participate with us because we're in social circus, right? So we'll have a few questions for you this afternoon, and we'll starting with one of them, which is why social circus? Why do you think we use social circus as a powerful tool? So now it's your time to answer. And we will continue after to give you some kind of answers. So Mike, you can go in the public, and now we're waiting for you for your answers. Why social circus?
We choose social circus because circus is inherently social. Like, it started as a social form of art, and it needs that power to keep going. And yeah, that's it.
Because it works.
Because it brings people together.
And the mainly subjects are like links with community, safe space. So why do we use social circus as a tool of safe space to create a sense of belonging? This is the questions. There's no bad answers, so don't be shy.
Because circus can be for everyone, and there's something in circus that anyone can find.
Yeah.
Because social circus, you make long-term friendships.
Okay, so this introduce. We will continue with a little game that Mike will explain you.
Now we will play a little game. We love games in social circus, and there is many reasons why we play games. There will be an example. So we have some questions. If the answer is yes, you stand up. If the answer is no, you stay on your chair.
Or if you prefer, you can raise your hand as well. Yeah.
Question number 1. Who enjoys juggling? Wow.
And we'll make a code together. So when Mike and I will do that, you can sit down.
Question number 2. Who prefer vanilla other than chocolate? Wow. Cool. Who didn't drink coffee this morning? Yeah. I don't drink coffee. Proud of you guys. Who can touch their nose with your tongue? Oh. Oh, look at that. Okay.
Who made friends in this social circus community? Who learned about another culture through social circus? So for the public, it's pretty impressive because almost everyone is stand-up right now. Yeah. Who came to a workshop even if they weren't feeling good and it was okay?
I think a big part of our group is doing that right now. Only because we're making nice, unstructured social connections late at night.
Okay, so slowly, with the questions, we'll go into the public and we will have some sharings. Who overcame one of their fears by doing social circus? And if someone feels she or he wants to share something, you can raise your hand.
Okay.
I think the question should be slightly amended. Who has faced one or more of their fears during social circus? Certainly in my case, it could be many more of their fears. Huh?
Yes, Haley.
Yeah, I think other Mike is right on the dot with that one. One of the many fears that I have overcome thanks to social circus is a fear of inadequacy and the kind of comparing myself to others that comes with that, and learning that as in my circus journey, I only need to compete with myself, and that's a pretty big deal in other areas of my life too.
In my personal history, I carry a little bit of trauma that is very physical. Being in social circus has allowed me to learn how to trust other people, both literally holding me up and physically catching me when I fall. So that has been a big thing for me.
So next question. Who felt a sense of magic from performing and being acknowledged by the community?
So the question was about the magic of, could you repeat the question for me?
Who felt a sense of magic from performing and being acknowledged by the community?
Okay, now I see the picture, now I understand. Okay, I drew this picture, and to me, it kind of speaks about performing and apparatus and happy people. That's what all those little faces are. They're the crowd, and that's me. That's Stick Guy. You can see that I'm very happy as well. So I think that's where the magic is community and performing and just love for circus. Yeah.
Who learned more about understanding their own boundaries?
Hey, for me, part of my history is I have lived experience with sexual exploitation and trafficking. So a lot of my stuff has been when my no has been dishonored, or when I just haven't listened to my body or listened to what I needed and voice something for people. In this journey of Circus, I have completely found a community where I can go and I can actually speak what I need. A prime example of that is yesterday we were playing a game. It's called Zip Zap Zop, and it's a silly little game, and you make a gesture towards somebody. And I've often played it in the past where people have done like a gun pointing motion. And so I immediately recognized that could potentially be a trigger for me. And so I just simply raised my hand and said, hey guys, I just want to let everyone know, could you do this for me? And when you're doing this, can you just make the hand motion and be sure not to do that gun movement? And literally immediately the whole room went like, absolutely, no problem at all. And that just goes to show that when we do speak, that it's honored, and that we're able to then express that, because 4 years ago I never would have been able to stand up and say this is exactly what I need to be able to participate, but I was able to do that yesterday. So that speaks to what the environment is.
One of the things I'm continuously learning in a position of leadership within a social circus program is that if you're going to be of any use to helping anybody else, then you really need to be aware of what your own self-care needs are, where your own boundaries lie, and being able to communicate those effectively with others, and also being really firm in those within yourself, because if you're not at your best, if you're not able to take on more space for others, then you're not going to be able to help in your fullest capacity, no matter how much your heart wants to help. And first and foremost, you need to take care of yourself as well if you're going to be any help to your community.
Who felt that they could show a part of themselves at Social Circus they could not show elsewhere?
Yeah, for me at the circus, it's a part of me that I couldn't express outside, but also that I discovered in the circus was a great spirit of playing. I rediscovered that playfulness in me, and also sharing with everybody, like not only material things but also emotions, knowledge, and just everything. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
There's still a few questions, but not a lot, so continue to listen. Another person for that question, or continue? Okay. Actually, there's only 2 questions left. So, who met someone that inspired them in their lives through Social Circus? A big thing to speak in front of people, so thanks for your listening, because it's precious right now.
So yeah, there are definitely many people in this room, including Haley and Angola, my circus gurus, I'd say. But today I had a conversation with the Dean and his work with refugees in Calgary, and how he uses social circus to help them integrate into the community, which I think is a very holistic way of holistic approach to doing that. And I'd love to one day maybe establish a social circus community in Scarborough, which is like a newcomer hub in Toronto. I think that would be very beneficial.
There is someone that has inspired me, and he's actually in this room. His name is Mike Hirschbach, and he's my teacher and mentor. I'm so appreciative for him because when I was younger, I was really in a rough spot. I wasn't doing a lot of good things with my life, and Circus kind of gave me something to do and something to strive for. So I'm very appreciative of that. And Mike has become like somewhat of a father figure to me. I'm just so appreciative for you, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, and the last question. Who feels like their social circus community is like a family?
I'm going to try not to cry. As has been discussed all weekend, the majority of people that use social circus, are involved in social circus, they are facing extreme barriers in their life, whether that's mental illness, addiction, homelessness, systemic racism. You basically name any negative term, and it's something that somebody in our community could be experiencing and dealing with. One of those things often has to do with trauma and our families. Many times, the people who are supposed to love us and nurture us and do all those things are actually the people who caused a lot of harm in our lives, and it's caused many people to turn inwards and isolate and have poor coping and all these things, and then they get invited into this space where you can show up exactly how you are, as you are, with no expectations other than being there, and it just, you can see the walls start to crumble as people start to be there, and eventually, you know, it truly does become a true family where, like, many of us have gone almost 2 years now without seeing each other, and like seeing each other this weekend, immediate big hugs, big like crying, and like we're all gonna be a mess tomorrow when everyone's leaving. And you know, at the end of the day, that old saying, blood is thicker than water, absolutely wrong. We often get caught up in that we can't push away our family, but we can set boundaries, and we can create the family that we want. And the big part of the way that's done is through social circus, and it literally is saving lives.
So we prepared this little part of the panel in few hours with some people who arrived super late at night, and we decided just to share with you what was important for us about safe space, about community. And so I hope you felt some of the importance of these kind of spaces. And to do a link with the pandemic, well, because of the pandemic, most of the activities of social circus were put on hold. So it made really, it led a void for individuals and for communities also. So it's such important for us to just be there together and share that and know that it's super powerful. So we hope that social circus could be recognized as essential, in fact, for our well-being, individually and for the communities also.
Nakumimiralok, thank you everyone for sharing this moment with us. And now the panel will continue with Daphne.
Testing, 1, 2. I have a mic, it's hidden. Oh. Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's great. Hi. It's great to have you all here. Thank you so much to participating artists, people that from Circiniq that just did the first part. It was lovely. Thank you. Yeah. So I am the youth action leader for Circiniq. I work for Cirque Hors Piste. And basically, I am working in partnership with our partner organizations here to bring youth together in various capacities and to just join and connect over social circus. So why did we call this panel Weak Ties Made Strong? Does anyone have an idea about what it means, weak ties, a weak tie? You can just raise your hand. Tiffany?
Weak ties are like, weak ties made strong, so the ties that we have to our community. That could be something as simple as going to a coffee shop and seeing the same person that makes your coffee every day.
Mm-hmm.
We actually end up developing those relationships, and you actually have an impact on your whole soul when you have those social interactions. So like, it's literally taking that and going, how can we make those little connections stronger and build our community better?
Yeah, that's so well said. And actually, there's a lot of research in sociology, in psychology, social psychology that just came out in the recent years about these weak ties. And it's not that they are less important ties. Actually, we're finding these ties are so important for mental health. This person you see in the street, your neighbor, the group you might go to on Friday nights to sing, you know? Those connections actually contribute a lot to people's well-being. And we're finding that, yes, social support, your network, the people close to you is important, but your weak ties are actually more important for learning and for openness of mind, for developing that. Because you might think, oh, the people right next to you, oftentimes it's more homogenous and you share more things in common, but the people you might encounter outside, the weaker ties, might open your mind to different ideas, different experiences. So in social circus, I find what's really special, actually, is that we have those weak ties because we have such a diversity of people we can meet, but also through the connections that you heard people speak about, I think really well, shows how you can also go into stronger ties with people. And so it's kind of fluid in that there's both in social circus. So that's where the title comes from. And I think we have the 7 pillars of social circus up here. So this is just kind of give you an idea of what are the ingredients to social circus. And our group that came up just now really demonstrated, I think, super eloquently, safe space, link with the community. And you saw what that feels like for real just now. So what we're going to do for the next part of the panel is I'm going to invite Dean from Green Fools to come up. Angola from LookUp Theatre to come up as well. And Rebecca with Cirqiniq. Yes. So before we go into that, they're going to talk to you more about these other pillars here. But I would like to share with you a documentary that was made actually in this year, March of 2021. The clowns? Oh, I missed that. That's great. Okay. So the documentary is actually about Circiniq, and it's about the online gathering that we did in March 2021. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea of the work we do. So place au spectacle.
Pour moi, le cirque social, c'est avant tout des rencontres d'humains qui ont des parcours de vie fascinants. On a toute une vie, puis on s'en va toutes quelque part. Puis généralement, ce quelque part-là, on le sait pas. Puis le cirque est l'outil qui nous permet d'être ensemble, qui nous permet de nous unir.
C'est trop génial, rencontrer plein de gens.
It's amazing to do it with everyone else around the country.
J'aime ça que ça continue le cycle social. C'est vraiment fun.
C'est inclusif, t'arrives pas de skill, tu ressors de là 2 ans après, t'en as plein.
Mais c'est une expérience qu'il faut que tu vives pour essayer de la comprendre.
Joining Circus, it changed my perspective.
Le cirque social, c'est une approche qui allie l'intervention sociale avec les arts du cirque. Puis le but, c'est d'offrir un espace inclusif où est-ce que les jeunes peuvent venir, peuvent créer, peuvent se rencontrer dans un climat un petit peu plus informel.
Dans le fond, ce que j'aime du cirque social, c'est vraiment l'aspect de pouvoir être en équipe, de pouvoir être tout ensemble, malgré les difficultés, travailler genre avec ça, en fait, de pouvoir avoir des ressources vraiment facilement. Aussi, le fait qu'on fait des liens avec des intervenantes.
The circus have helped me get out of bed in the morning and gets me excited, makes me happy.
There are a lot of things that I don't know that I can do, but when I do circus, I find out that my body is capable of doing anything.
Mais le cirque a une particularité d'abord par son histoire. Le cirque a toujours existé un petit peu en dehors de la norme de la société, mais aussi le cirque est particulier parce qu'il y a beaucoup de médiums. Fait que tout le monde peut y trouver son compte.
One of the things that I really enjoy about social circus is the lack of hierarchy when you come into the group. It doesn't matter what kind of skills you have, what level your skills are. When you come in, you're just like everyone else.
Tu es libre d'être qui tu es, puis tu es libre de te sentir bien. Bravo.
Il y a tous les impacts au niveau de l'estime de soi, de la santé mentale, qu'on peut ressentir quand on arrive dans un espace où le pouvoir est donné aux participants et aux participantes.
Ça m'a vraiment beaucoup aidé à comme rembarquer dans un mood qui est comme vraiment moins dépressif, du sens où j'ai des trucs à mon horaire. En plus, c'est quelque chose que j'aime bouger, j'ai toujours été active toute ma vie, fait que c'est comme laisser tomber comme qu'est-ce qui est négatif pour retomber dans quelque chose que je connaissais déjà, dans une version améliorée de moi-même.
I used to be a very shy person, tons of anxiety, and I found that being able to explore social circus really helped with that anxiety.
Ben, le côté social, ce qu'on veut dire, c'est qu'on vise des objectifs qui sont sociaux, qui sont pas des objectifs de performance, d'atteindre un certain niveau en cirque technique. Bien que ça puisse arriver, c'est vraiment de se concentrer sur l'estime de soi, l'acceptation dans un groupe, le travail d'équipe, toutes ces choses-là qui peuvent nous servir aussi dans la vie, qui sont pas seulement dans le cirque, mais aussi dans notre contexte plus large.
When I joined circus, I was lost. I had social anxiety. So growing up, it helped me making new friends.
Circiniq, c'est une grande communauté de cirque social au Canada qui inclut à peu près 20 organisations de cirque social. C'est 2 mots ensemble, c'est cirque et Circiniq. Circiniq, c'est un mot en Atikamekw, qui est une communauté des Premières Nations ici au Québec. Et ça veut dire tout le monde ensemble. Fait que ça représente bien l'identité du mouvement. Circiniq a commencé en janvier 2020, quand on a fait un grand rassemblement à Montréal avec plein de communautés de cirque social au Canada, puis on s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait vraiment un besoin d'être représenté, puis de créer des espaces d'échange, puis des espaces de partage entre les organisations au Canada.
On a rencontré plein de gens vraiment cool, puis de différents milieux, puis c'est vraiment intéressant à voir que même nous, à Montréal, au Canada, au Québec, je veux dire, on puisse, comme, d'une certaine façon, interagir avec des gens qui sont Nauvoo, Vancouver, peu importe où, mais à plein de places différentes, là.
Puis ce que ça crée, dans le fond, c'est un sentiment de communauté super fort. Plusieurs des participants et des participantes réfèrent à une famille de cirque social. Fait que c'est vraiment comme ça que les personnes se sentent quand ils joignent notre communauté.
What I love about social circus is the community that it lets us build
and that we can use people from all around the world, and we get to have relationships with them and do circus and just really like develop our social skills and just make people happy.
Puis, on peut aussi penser à l'échange interculturel là, qui se passe entre les jeunes quand tu as un jeune, par exemple, du Nunavut qui vient pour une activité à Montréal, par exemple, ben, il rencontre un jeune des provinces de l'Ouest, rencontre un jeune des provinces de l'Est. Fait que ça permet de créer un climat qui est super propice au partage des connaissances, puis qui est par et pour les jeunes.
There is a culture behind social circus, and that everyone sort of creates that, but then they also bring their own culture in. So we have our circus culture, but then you learn about the Inuit culture, you learn about Native, you learn about sort of the French Canadian. It all comes together, and you learn all these different parts.
People come in speaking different languages and find a way to communicate with each other. People are coming in with different skills and performing arts and games and whatnot and teaching them to one another. So we're learning about various aspects of cultures that necessarily on a daily basis we wouldn't have any access to.
And for me to know that there are so many other communities that are joining Circus, and to think how many of them would do the same thing as I do. That's crazy. Like, it keeps blowing my mind every day.
Ben, je pense que pour les jeunes qui ont participé à Circasquina, c'est super précieux puis c'est important parce que de sentir le réseau fort, ça te permet de vraiment te projeter dans le temps puis de savoir que ça dure, ces relations-là. Puis ça peut mener à des amitiés, ça peut mener à des découvertes d'autres cultures. C'est vraiment une façon, le Cirque social, je pense, de créer un lien qui dure puis qui est spécial.
The essence of Circasquina, I think. And just to give you a bit of context, what we're doing right now in St. John's is actually a Youth Young Ambassadors Committee. So all the people that have come to St. John's to meet over the weekend and the Circus Fest are people who have shown leadership in their communities, and they're gonna go back into their communities, and they really are, I think, role models for the participants. In their communities as well. Here you go. So if we can transition maybe to Rebecca, Angola, and Dean, and we'll talk a little bit more about the other pillars of social circus. Maybe I'll try to sit. I'm such a standing person.
Come and sit down.
Oh.
And so we're looking at the lens of starting social circuses if other people wanted to do that, right? Like with the pillars and thinking about the pillars. And we just wanted to start with safe space. And you guys saw a lot of that in the conversation that we just had. And then the creative work that these young ambassadors did. And really that's like a kind of foundational entry point for any social circus workshop is having that safe space, which allows us to do all that creative work. And safe space is physical, but it's also emotional safe space. And it's having that safe space that allows us to create. And we do that actually by going to the group, and it's a living document that we create with each social circus group where we ask what is needed to have that safe space for taking those creative and personal risks that allow us to grow. Do you guys want to add anything else about safe space? Yeah.
I think you covered it.
Okay, awesome.
Are we going to do the intros?
Oh yeah, we forgot to do the intro. I jumped ahead. I'm so sorry.
So maybe we can backtrack.
Yeah.
Kind of share a bit about yourselves,
Okay, sure.
the community that you're working with.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can get back into it. We were excited to start.
Anyway, I got really excited, guys. Sorry, I often do that. I'll go into a meeting and I'll just launch into the excitement of meeting that person without introducing myself. I'm Rebecca, and I work with Cirqiniq, which is a social circus project in Nunavik that's been happening officially since 2009. However, it actually was a kind of offshoot from a Cirque du Monde project that was there earlier than that. And even before that, as we discussed earlier in yesterday, actually, it's only been a day, with my other Nunavik colleagues, Circus existed in Nunavik way before we came up, with the blanket toss and the juggling. And then there was one other thing that we talked about. Which? Oh, teeterboard. There was teeterboard in Nunavik before that. And acrobatic stuff too. Actually, when I first went up there the very first time in 2001, the kids were 5 years old and they were doing backflips off the houses into the snow.
Wow.
And I was just like, whoa, you guys are epic. And I also work as a facilitator for Cirque. So that's me, and I'm going to pass it over to Angola.
Cirque is based in...
Sorry, Cirque is based in Toronto.
Toronto, right.
And we both work in the Arctic, so we wanted to come back to Toronto and share our capacity and our teaching there.
Great, thank you.
Good segue, because I'm based in Toronto. Though I would like to first thank the festival for having us here, but also to put Social Circus as a panel in the festival, because I've been to a few of the panels now and last year, and a lot of the questions that people are asking on the other panels, and maybe we'd call them the professional panels, a lot of the problems are kind of solved through Circus, or Social Circus, and especially entry points. So thank you to the festival for putting Social Circus, because it's really important, and even more important now maybe. My company's LookUp Theatre, and I'm the artistic director of LookUp Theatre, and we have many programs, but one is our Social Circus, and it's 12 years old now, and its specific lens is for people 16 to 29 who have lived mental health experience. And our specialty is devising shows of those participants' lived experience, circus shows. Dean?
My name is Dean Bearhem. I'm the artistic director and co-founder of Green Fools Theatre in Calgary, Alberta, out on the prairies. And I've been doing this for, we're 30 years old as a company, but about 5 years into our program, I started working doing social circus with Neil Rumpel at the Winnipeg Children's Festival, doing outreach programs in inner city Winnipeg and then northern communities. And then I realized we have our own needs in our own community, so I started bringing those programs back to Calgary. I worked with Cirque du Monde, Rebecca, and a lot of these people touring and teaching in northern rural communities, really remote communities. And so we started our own programs for inner city youth in the city. We tend to work a lot. We work with a generally younger demographic, 8 and up. We work a lot with Indigenous youth. We work with youth at risk. We work with refugees and new immigrants that come to the city. And so I'm very passionate about this work. We also are a theater company, and we create puppet shows, and we create stuff, but we're always, I think the core of our values really lie in social circus, because we know the impact and we see the impact on a regular basis. So that's who I am.
Great, thank you. And yeah. So maybe we can go briefly back to the safe space. I think, Rebecca, you talked about emotional safe space and physical. So I don't know if Angola or Dean, you want to add to this component of the emotional safe space.
Yeah, I would add that, for example, when the Syrian refugees came to Canada, we partnered with, and we'll get into partnerships later, but we partnered with Red Cross and the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society. They're the organization in Calgary that was dealing with all the new families coming to the city. And we used the social circus when they arrived as the first thing that they got to do. And so the safe space was literally, they're in Canada, they're here, and they're not being persecuted, or they're not being chased out of their own country, and they're not facing the ravages of war. And so the moment they arrive to us is to try to create that safe space for them. and it, and basically that comes with a sense of openness and community and love, right?
For sure, yeah. And Angola, do you want to add to that?
Well, I think, because another thing that we do is allow a safe space for expression, and take it further in a safe space to do that expression for the public. And the last panel, they were talking about authenticity, and that circus needs more authenticity. After the pandemic, people want that, and so we also create this space for their authentic expression in the public.
Right. I hear already all of these are linked in a way, right? But already some elements of a participant-centered approach, which is the next point, and meaning like taking the person as they are when they arrive in the space. So I wondered if you could speak to why that's important in social circus.
Yeah. So what is that, right? A participant approach, or participants, what do we call it? An approach centered on the participants is the actual pillar. And so we're trying to have this lens here about like a how-to, because we're all doing it. So one of the things that we do is right away, like we bring in specialty workshop artists and teachers. And so one of the main things is I go to the group and ask, like, before we start our season, like, what specialty artists do you want to bring in? So they get to choose, they craft the whole program and what they get to learn. And also in our program, we do devised shows, and it's completely devised on the participants' lived experience. So that's another participant-focused thing that we do. And they get to choose the themes of what the show is, and so also like where we do the dissemination of the work. Like, are we going to do it in a theater? Is it going to be more of an immersive experience? They get to choose all that, and then what you were saying too is like that the participants come as they are at the beginning of the season, but then every day, and that's what's important. Is you show up where you're at that day.
Right. So there's also a component of empowerment to choose elements of the artist, the workshops, and the components that are in the space. Yeah.
I just want to add to that too, is in that circus is inherent in its interdisciplinary nature. So no matter where you're at, there's some way for you to engage in a social circus workshop. If you're like a super physical person, then there's like acrobatics and like lots of highly stimulating things. If maybe you've got like a more mental intellectual mind, and you want to just focus on the juggling and the focus, or if you want to be by yourself, you can pick a kind of more solitary activity, or you can pick a more social activity. If you want to be behind the scenes, maybe you grab a camera and you're taking photographs of the workshop or playing the music. So there's lots of entry points into the workshop depending on where the participant is coming. So as an instructor, you kind of like gauge that and invite and include.
We at the Fools, we also incorporate not just circus, but we incorporate magic, puppets, hip hop, drumming sometimes. And what's really great is, like you say, you accept them as they are. So when they arrive, maybe they're afraid of the aerial stuff, but they'll find something else that grounds them. And it's also nice to embrace what they bring from their own culture, right? We did a drum workshop once, and the circus stuff freaked the kids out, but as soon as we brought the drums out, everybody was drumming, right? So it's trying to find the thing that gives them accessibility and lets them be who they are.
Yeah, and you were just touching on that as well, Dean, like just integrating the culture too. Like, every group is going to be different, and so if you can find ways of integrating and collaborating with the culture that is already pre-existing in a group, and making that into the interdisciplinary nature of the circus and the creative expression.
Right, like you were talking about before in Nunavik, the circus being already present in the community. Exactly. So working with that. Cool. The next one I'd like to talk about maybe is partnerships. So maybe we could touch on who does your organization partner with, and also maybe that little bit about funding and how we run those programs.
Yeah, we as a nonprofit charity, my company, we look at all levels of funding, from municipal, provincial, federal funding. But some of the most effective partnerships, I think, are from within the community, and you work with organizations that are already working in those scenarios. None of us have the infrastructure to be able to find all those kids that are out there. So that's why it's really important you establish partnerships. We work with, I said, Calgary Catholic Immigration Society. We work with Adopted Parents Society, families with adopted children. And we work with NGOs. We've done some work, Stacey Clark knows, where we worked with Helpless Sutu. We took programs to Africa. We've worked, within indigenous communities and those bands. And then within the city itself, like trying to find sometimes unconventional partners. People that have a mission to help children, but maybe have no idea what Circus is. So, for example, we've just made a partnership with the Rotary Club. And thinking even outside of the box, even more than that. We try to appeal to youth crime prevention, for example. It's always great. There's funding available quite often through that. Through your local police department and that kind of stuff. So it's really important to establish community partnerships. Because then what happens, they can recommend kids to your program. Who needs this program? When we approach our partners, we say, what we want are kids who think they could really benefit from this. And so you're getting the partners who have a relationship already with them, and they bring them to the program, which really helps a lot because we don't have that kind of infrastructure to assess every kid and what their needs are. So that's really important.
Right. So the bit about outreach and also just like inviting the participants in and based on a relationship that's already existing.
Exactly. And also even as far as we work in a lot of small communities that bring in social circus, and what we do is help them establish those relationships within the community. So is there a car dealership? Find those people who have compassion in your community and you hit them up. And then it gives them the perception that they're actually helping, which they are. It makes them feel good about their investment. And then what's great is at the end, they all come to see that show. And their children are there. And their children's friends are there. And and it's really impactful.
Yeah.
It has such an impactful thing.
I feel like Angola wants to share something.
Well, I think just the outreach, the other part of that is that the partnerships help the audience outreach as well. Like we've partnered with the Toronto District School Board, and over 2 years we went into 55 different high schools and presented a show, circus show, anti-stigma mental health circus show. So the partners are really important for all kinds of outreach.
And funding as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say that as well, because there might be, we can't fund everything with, getting Arts Council grants. So finding those, like a venue partner, or like maybe a partner that provides snacks, or maybe you partner with a local social organization that provides the social support. So it's like, those are all the pieces of the puzzle that help you provide the kind of programming that you want to provide, as well as it builds that network of community that overall is what is going to support your participants. And so everyone feels actually more connected from engaging and supporting the project.
Right. So what you're talking about is a bigger level of societal transformation that you're starting to build through these partnerships.
Yeah.
Cool. Duration and time is one of them as well. So duration and time, what we mean by that is the workshops and the programs lasting sometimes, hopefully many years, and the focus that it brings on relationship and building that relationship. So I don't know if you want to speak to what that looks like for each of you.
It's interesting with the Green Fools. Traditionally, what we've done is we've done large camps, maybe 100 kids, 10 instructors, over a week. And so that was sort of our model for a long time until I started connecting with the other social circus organizations across Canada, and I started realizing, these, Cirque Hors Piste, you guys work with kids all year, or you work with them for years. And we did a program this year for the first time, a 6-month program, but because of the pandemic, we had to keep it small. We had 6 kids, and we worked with them for 6 months, and we saw a different kind of transformation. A 1-week camp is very impactful, but it's that ability to want to keep them connected to you. So the pandemic has really forced us to sort of lower our numbers, but try to have longer time and experience with them to give those youth just a longer time with you.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so ours would be sort of the opposite of how you used to work, because ours is, the maximum is always 10. And yeah, so for 12 years, every Thursday, this space has been available. And we, Mike said earlier today to me, because he's watched our videos, like something that he was envious of was that he sees the same youth in the videos over and over, because we do have a, like you can come back every year until you're 30, which is another discussion because it's called aging out. And I don't really believe you ever age out of circus or, yeah, you know, and then like, oh, okay, all your mental health experience just disappears when you're 30, right? No, it starts. No, just, so anyway, but yeah, like the duration of time for us, a lot stay until they age out, and then we try to like have that you can be a facilitator or whatever when you do age out, but yeah, so it's just like always going.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really a key pillar for Cirqiniq, because when we, the original Cirque du Monde one was more of a parachute project where we'd come in for, again, like short periods of time and then go away. But then that wasn't working, and so the regional government decided that they wanted to create like a longer running program with a more sustainable approach, where we were mentoring young leaders who would eventually, I think what we started was instructors from the South coming up and starting this mentorship process, like, and now, 12 years later, we now have a program where young leaders are getting trained. They've gone through the process of being mentored, and now they're going out to communities themselves and taking on those leadership roles, which is super, super exciting. And we couldn't do that without duration over time. Yeah, it's really exciting. And I'm going to just say the silver lining of the pandemic for us was that our young leaders had to step up and take more leadership because we couldn't travel to Nunavik. Yeah. So we've got Tilu in the house over here who is running workshops, local workshops in his community by himself without, he just had to take it on, and he was amazing. So I'm just like super proud of our youth for kind of like growing up through this, and now they're taking ownership over the project.
Yeah. It sounds like because of the duration and time, people are able to be more empowered because of that and access these leadership positions.
Yeah, and also the continuation of the same instructors going up over and over too. So there's a lot of trust that's built through that duration of time as well. Yeah. So we're able to really go deep with the work.
Awesome.
And play.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to talk next about what we call the Tandem Approach. So always having a circus instructor with a community worker or a youth worker. So it looks very different. We have all kinds of different approaches across Canada. So I thought maybe you could share a little bit about that, what it looks like for each of you, and what is specifically the role of the community worker or the youth worker in the space.
I keep on saying this is a key part of social circus, but I guess that's why they're called pillars. But anyway, this is something that's super important because when you're doing a social circus workshop, I mean, oftentimes social things come up because we're pushing on our boundaries and we're going into places where we're like facing our fears, and we can get triggered by things. And sometimes we're in need, or our participants are in need of social support. And so this is where it's key to have a social worker or a community support worker who's kind of present on a regular basis to actually support that participant, right? And a lot of us are circus artists who got interested in social circus. So I mean, we've probably developed some social intervention, but it's really helpful to have other folks there who that's their more primary thing, and then they're interested in circus, and they, we both share kind of the learning from each side. Right. But anyway, I feel like this social support, I had a thread there that I was going with, but anyway, it's essential. It's just essential.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important that we and it's better in some places than others, but like, for example, in the West, it's trying to convince social workers the importance of this. So that's why this link across Canada is so important, and then we come together and we have a united voice, and we have the information. I can't tell you how many evaluation studies I've done of my programs, but if that information, to assess the effectiveness of it, but if that information isn't shared and it isn't given to the social workers, they don't engage in it. So it's really important to trying to find those people. And so, we're always looking for ways to partner with social organizations that do that kind of work. So
I found my thread again. Yeah. So the other part of it is that oftentimes in a community setting, sometimes social workers kind of get a bad rap. Like they come into difficult situations, and so they haven't necessarily built a trust relationship with the people that they're trying to support. So if they are in regular attendance at these social circus workshops, there is a different type of relationship that is built over time just by being in that space, by trying things that the participants are trying, by being alongside and taking those risks. And so therefore there's a trust that is built up, which then allows everyone to trust each other, which allows more opening to take place and more healing to take place. So that's the other side of the coin that I just wanted to bring up.
And then that we find a similar thing when we work with, say, youth crime prevention, and we work with police services. I always try to get the police to show up out of uniform. The first day they always want to show up, they show up in their uniform, and it's like, okay, I recognize these kids, I've thrown you in jail or whatever, I've done stuff like this. But what I try to do is humanize them, and I say, show up the next day and take your uniform off and be here as a human and try stuff. And what happens is the kids see them as real people, and then there's a different relationship that's formed. So I think it's the same thing for social workers and those kind of community supports. The more you can get your community behind it and to show them, I'm a real person, I'm not just a police officer, I have feelings and I actually can do this stuff, I find that's really impactful and helpful for the youth.
Hi, Angola.
Yeah, just like logistically, it's very important, especially for our social circus, if there's a mental health crisis that happens, which inevitably does, working in clown and all kinds of things can be triggering. So instead of like everything having to stop because we're dealing with the mental health crisis, it can continue, and the social worker can go for a walk with the participant, and then the circus practitioner can continue the work. And then just back to the how-to, because we're kind of like sharing these little secrets of how-to, is often we've got a master of social work student being the social worker, because they all have to do an intensive internship, and they're free.
I just want to add one more point too on that. We do a summer camp, and so we try to actually mix up the workshops that we do. So we'll do like circus workshops, but then we'll also like take a moment and we'll do a workshop on healthy relationships or healthy nutrition, and bring in the local social workers, and they can kind of like touch on these very important topics on how to be a healthier, kind of more functional human. And we integrate those workshops in. So it's like, then you get the physical, maybe you're tired a bit, and you can go and sit out and do this type of like more, self-care learning workshop. So it's kind of, it's really, I feel like it's really, what separates social circus from recreational circus is that we do have these underlying social goals within our groups.
So it's talking about well-being alongside circus.
That's right.
And also having like a sense of mutuality with the mental health workers. That maybe labels that exist, or you're talking about with the police officers, labels exist in society and allows that to come off.
Yeah, and I think one of the main things that's different with social circus, you say to recreational circus, is it's not results-based in that same way. There's no competition. There might be a final performance and a presentation where they get to show it off, but it's not about, the circus is the tool, but what we're really doing is making better humans.
That's really well put, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. I think there's two more that we could touch on. One being creativity and self-expression, which I think like a lot of the people here might be circus artists, and it's intuitive to think, yes, creativity allows for self-expression. for sure. But I'd really like to hear all of you on, is there an approach that you use that's really more specific to social circus?
Yeah. Yeah, we have like a 4-step pedagogy that starts with skill building, and as I was saying before, the participants get to pick the skill building people that come in, and then we have a creation process, and then a rehearsal process, and the performance, and we repeat that every year, and it's a 10-month cycle, and right away, we tell true stories on stage. It's the participants' true stories with their lived mental health experiences, and we, a lot of the time, because it is circus, we start with what their interests are, like the skill building, and then talk about the metaphors that can be. And we usually try to make one piece of equipment each year, and so we jam on different things. Like one year we made an aerial gurney because many of the participants had rode a gurney in some mental health form, and you know how that was, and then the gurney flew up in the air, and the psychiatrist and participant were more on equal grounds because that's a little bit more how things are dealt with as opposed to the past where people are just like, take these drugs, it'll make you better. So yeah, our process is very like participant lived experience through metaphor, and what else did I want to say about that? That's it. That was it. Yeah. What do you guys want to say?
Well, we always incorporate a performance in the workshops, even if it's a 1-week camp. And the reason we do that is because then what that does, and this will link to the next thing about community, is that performance is what will sell that program to those people and to your funders, and they see that and they see, look at all these kids working together. Look at them being themselves on stage and expressing themselves. It's a little bit. It's like a reward, We try not to put too much pressure on our shows. Depends on the show. There's sometimes we've done larger creations over 3 weeks where we have done a big show, but ultimately it's about them getting their due, getting their credits, getting that accolades from their audience, and it's addictive. And then they want to come back. They're like, I love this. It's not all, like you say, some kids want to hide in the back and they want to be backstage, and yeah, you're running the music or you're running the sound. That's totally cool. Or you're my light guy. But it's kind of a reward for them. They've worked really hard, and then I try to say to them, this is the icing on the cake. This is where you get your accolades, and they always literally floating off the floor when you're done one of those shows, because you've just come full circle. You've realized why we do this, why we do circus. We don't do it to do it in our own house in front of no one. We do it because we feel the love and we feed off the love of the audience, and the kids get to feel that too.
Yeah.
And also like the audience is floating too. Yeah. And it might even be that they've just seen some big professional show the night before and they didn't float, but there's like this magical thing because they feel that what social circus is when they see the productions too.
So it sounds like the creative process in it of itself, leading up to a show, can be therapeutic for people sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an opportunity to express like your unique, individual, authentic voice, right? And that's something that we encourage in the social circus, is about like, this is a place for you to express yourself and what you want to share, and whether that's like something from your culture or from your lived experience, but it's about creating that space where this is your voice has an opportunity to be heard right here. And it's not a push thing, like we're not like pushing people to do it, but it's an invitation. And then you're within this group, within your circus family that's supporting you, and you're all sharing your stories together, and it's just like such a beautiful, like connected exchange that happens, and the audience feels it too, and then there's this cycle of connection that happens.
And it helps to build the community and bring the community together. I think I've experienced it when Stacy and I were in Africa, and we did a show with a small Protestant school. Most of the schools around us were Catholic. We were working with a small, very underprivileged Catholic school that didn't even have a bathroom. We go there the first year, we do the program. The community came out. We called the whole crew and said, hey, come watch the show. And over the hill comes like, maybe 1,200 kids from all the other surrounding schools. And they saw what happened and what these teachers and what they were able to bring together and what we did. And then the next year you found out that because of that, there was support from the community. And next year they had bathrooms, and next year they had some tables in their schools. And it actually helped people go, oh, okay, that school has potential, right? So it helps the community as well and the audience. We were doing a show with the Syrian families, and 2 audience members saw each other, hadn't seen each other since they left Syria, had to flee from Syria. And all of a sudden they realized that both of their kids are in the same class, and they were neighbors, and they knew each other. And there's tears, and we bring the audience together. These stories are endless. We work on a reservation in the Stoney Nakoda First Nation, and that particular reservation has problems. The left hands don't talk to the Daniels because of something that happened 30 years ago. And all of a sudden, because of the kids coming together to do their final show, the entire reservation came together, and they were in the same place together.
Wow.
That was the first time that had happened in 20 years, 30 years. So it brings communities together.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive. Yeah. Did you want to talk on that point?
I just want to
Rebecca?
say
Yeah?
one more thing, which is another thing that allows a participant maybe who's been in their community and is known to be a certain way, and then all of a sudden they get to go on stage and show a different part of themselves. And then the community is able to see them as something else, so you get to step out of your boxes. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, that really is a good bridge to the last point, which I think our young leaders really showed well about the social circus family, the ties across, but also within the community. But I wonder if maybe we could talk about the more macro, the larger scale, when we think about doing social circus, what kind of social transformation does it bring in the larger community? And Dean, you already gave a great example.
Yeah, I sort of jumped ahead. But yes, I think when you do this, you unite people, you bring together people facing adversity. In 2013, we had a flood in Calgary that devastated our city, and we had a camp that we had to do, and we ended up doing it 2 weeks after the flood. And every single parent, every single kid. And we also did one in Calgary. We did one in High River where the flood was the worst and almost wiped out the entire town. And we brought people together, and it was like almost like we feel now. We are a community, and these are our families, and we've all been through adversity. We're dealing with a pandemic, and we finally get together, and the relief and the love that we feel. And so that's the link to the community. And so our goal is to try to convince all of our partners and your funders that that's what we're doing. We're building community. We're not just making pretty pictures. We are changing the world, as we say, one kid at a time sometimes, but we're affecting it. And then also, you want to talk about the future of circus and where is it going to go. In the last panel, you guys were talking about what's happened in 5 years. In 5 years, I want all you guys to be running these programs. That's what I want, So we got to do it. We got to support, and then we also have to find unique partnerships in the community. Like I say, think outside the box. We can create a show based on anything. And if it happens to be Atco trailers, okay, fine. We'll do something in an Atco trailer. I don't care. If that means that we can get money out of the pockets of those people, then so be it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that, either of you?
Yeah, sure. So I think we're doing this through the lens of how to do a social circus. Right. We have these community links here with each other. We have a network of social circuses across Canada. And so if folks want to start a social circus in their community, I think all of us, we're inclusive. We like to share. So just come and talk. We're your community links.
And again, I just want to say what Cirque Hors Piste is doing now and connecting Canada.
Yeah.
We've been operating for many years out in the prairies, feeling like we're out in the middle of the prairies, and now we feel like we're part of a bigger family. It's always been a family, but now we feel like we're trying to make it a national family, and I think that's really important. It's so great to see these people. We've seen them online, and we've done work with them together. But to see them in, we are a community. We've built a community.
We wear each other's T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I'm just aware of the time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying all the pillars of social circus and a little bit helping us understand how it comes to be. So maybe before we go to the audience, if you'd like to ask our panelists any questions or our youth any questions, if they feel comfortable answering, I'd like to just maybe conclude by asking you if you could have an ideal social circus world, what would it look like? What would you hope for?
Well, I went to the youth. I walked up the hill with them, and as I was coming up, I was like, okay, so I got to answer this question, guys. What do you want to see? And they said expansion, reaching more people, have it be a key to everyone in the world getting along, like world peace, improving world communication, create beautiful, meaningful art. What else did they say? Help the world understand that what we're doing has a deeper purpose. We're not just like doing recreational circus, but that we have these deeper goals, and like we want to bring that awareness all around the world. What else? Help support social circus participants get jobs if that's what they want to do. So like to transform like what it means to like work in circus,
right?
Like have it be open and inclusive to people who are coming from that social circus world. So that's coming from our group over here, like at least some of them that I had a chance to talk to, and it's in kind of like in harmony with my view too, which is global social circus. Take over the world.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's my wish, that because we're seeing that social circus can be an entry point to professional circus, and we're seeing it more and more. I guess because social circus is expanding too. But I guess one thing we didn't really talk about is it's usually free, if not always. And so that's sort of where that comment is coming from, is that, you know, everyone's talking about diversity and the dreams for the 5 years of the panel. I really believe that social circus is going to help solve the problem that circus has, that it's not diverse, is that continuing it as an entry point, but then like helping it lose the stigma of like, oh, you've come from social circus, like you can then go into professional circus and we can support this. Yeah.
I agree with both of them on all of those points, inclusivity and all of that. The one thing I want to say, and anyone here that has influence in terms of funding, we need more operational support. All these programs are free, and we continually write grants, and they continually have to recreate the wheel every time we write a grant because people don't want to give us operational funding. So my thing, and that's why I'm here, is to advocate for more operational funding so we keep providing free programs and can do the same thing and don't have to recreate the wheel every time and label it something else. We will do it, we know how to do it, we write those grants, we do it, but I'm sick of it. I want to have support, and I want a national support, and if anyone knows anybody in the government, and I mean this passionately, we need to support this, because ultimately, if we feel like the world is going to be a better place because these are our future, or you guys are our future, we have to support the future, and we have to support this connection. And I want to make sure that we have connections across our country and across the world. I want to make sure we get programs to South America because you guys are getting left behind. And I think we have the ability to do it. And all you guys could be the future instructors of all these programs. So more operational support. That's what I'm going to say.
Yes. Could I borrow a mic okay. So I'd like to just open up the floor to anybody who wishes to ask questions. I'll come over to you. And if in our group of leaders, someone wishes to answer the question, just let me know, and I'll come over to you as well. Or maybe one of you can go over to them since it's far. So I had a question over here.
Hi. My question is about that link between social circus and professional touring circus, and particularly nonprofit. So I'm not talking about commercial gig kind of circus. I wonder if you could sort of chart out what that pipeline could look like if it were enhanced. What's missing? Do schools have a role to play? what role is that? Do producers have a role to play? Do playwrights and dramaturgs and kind of artistic accompany? Because even the story you were telling, Angola, about just that one detail of the gurney really shows that there's a lot of stories that could be included in circus that would make circus shows more interesting and exciting to audiences. So I'd love to see that kind of story in the professional touring circuit, but there's obviously a lot of artistic development as well as technical development that needs to kind of work to get it into that market. So I'm just wondering what does the pipeline look like for you?
I want to speak to that just for a moment because we actually have a couple of members of our social circus in Cirqiniq that started their own professional troupe here. Michael and Minnie over here. Do you guys want to talk about your experience at all? Or, I mean, I can say that we had a lot of support from Makivik Corporation, so the government of Nunavik that came behind us and gave them some support to start the troupe, and then they applied for arts funding. So
I just want to say that I'm super proud that we were able to program the company multiple times over the summer from Tohu, and really excited about that. So that's that's a great example of a company. Yeah. I have them in mind when I think about this question. But
exactly.
I'm really thinking about more globally. Also, I think about in Colombia, for example, the pipeline is much more straightforward. Like, most folks that are in professional circus came out of social circus in Colombia.
Yeah.
So there's different places where the pipeline is more straightforward. Anyway, we can talk about the individual
I think
case,
the fact that you're producing them is a huge part of it.
Yeah, huge.
That's huge. The fact that, we need more people who are willing to produce. We also need spaces for them to train in, and then we need mentors to help support them on their path. And I would say those are part of the pipeline
I would
pieces.
also say that notion, the accessibility for training, because a lot of the youth that I work with, they want to go to the next level, but they live in northern rural Alberta. And for them, the accessibility to get to Montreal to train or try to get professional training to go to the next level is impossible. So I think it's a commitment. We have to get commitment from our governments. We can't put all the pressure on the bigger companies. I think that anytime a bigger company or a company, let's say like Cirque du Soleil, can assist in that, or Tohu can assist in that, that's awesome. That's the step. But I think we need to get our government behind that idea of that we have youth that want to do it, but sometimes it's impossible for them.
And I think there's a greater thing that is acceptance of perhaps lived experience on stage trumping technique.
Yeah.
I'm totally into technique, actually. But, what I'm saying is someone brought up earlier in the other panels too, mothers and just different bodies and diversity and all that happened in the panel before us. It's it starts with acceptance and our audience wanting and accepting that you can be moved by somebody on stage that doesn't have perfect technique or body, perfect body or whatever perfect is.
Is there someone in the young leaders that wants to speak to that as well? Or was that? I can't see everyone.
I would say also just finding space in our institutions, right? So, we have professional training institutions, but if there's space within, for residencies with these artists or funding for these artists to say, go to the Banff Center or the École Nationale de Cirque to do training opportunities, because sometimes they're up in the Arctic and they don't necessarily have, as Dean was saying, the access. So if there could be these tunnels that you were talking about, what did you say? Channels, pipelines, but pipelines to allow them to get access to the resources that they need to develop to then create their work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Thank you. Is there any other questions you'd like to ask our panelists or our youth? Yes. I can mute.
Thank you so much for this panel. It's always very inspiring. The social circus panel is always like the most exciting. And like clearly you're all very passionate, and thank you for the work that you do, and the joy that it brings is very evident. I sort of had two questions, but like I'll ask the one that's most burning is the question around durational programs. So, well, just to be specific, like I've had an interest for a while in having a social circus program, and I have a space, but I'm not able to commit to the duration. So is there a world that exists where there's some way to navigate that?
Well, I think durational, of course, is fantastic when you can, but I will say that I have done camps that are just for a week long, and it can have almost just as much an impact because of the feeling and the experience that they have. And then we look at it, so for many years, I would just do regularly a camp or two a year. So, I mean, if you've got a space, you could run a short camp and you could see, try that out. How does that work? And then try it again, maybe do it quarterly or find a time. Because then what will happen is you'll still keep those connections with those kids and they will come back to your program, Even if, sometimes I wish I could just keep them all the time, all year round, but I can't. And there's time that goes by. But I think the most important thing is to keep checking in. And if you have a small group of kids, is to let them know that you haven't forgot about them. That's half the battle. If they feel like I've not been forgotten about and they have something to look forward to, you can do a camp in 6 months even, they will look forward to that. And I'll tell you, they'll call you every second week going, is that camp ready? When's that camp coming? So I believe you can still have an impact and do shorter duration programming.
Yeah, I think something is better than nothing, but I also think that the participants become reliant on the program for sure. So then I would say the answer, and we talk about this all the time, is mentorship, and bringing people up through the system to be able to take on the program when they're ready.
And then to add to that, I would say partnership, because if you're not able to personally do it, perhaps there's a partner organization that you could work with.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
To provide that type of programming and that duration over time.
And on that same note, we have done programs in the facilities, like say with the Calgary Police Service, they have a big gym. So we've done programs in there. We've taken them there. Because for a long time we didn't have a circus space, and we've just opened our circus space, so now we can do them there. But for many years, I didn't have a space. I was operating out of other community centers or whatever happened to be available for us.
And maybe this new world of Zoom can help, right? Because you don't have to be physically in the space anymore to lead the program.
Yeah.
I would say it's not a bad thing to start without duration of time, because you have to start somewhere. And if you don't start, you don't actually know the needs of the people you're working with. You don't know them yet. So I think starting with something short to understand what you're trying to build is actually the best way to go. And then maybe the participants will be the creators of what it will be moving forward.
Awesome, thank you. Was there a second question? You had mentioned two.
And I'm just wondering about like social circus. So you've talked a lot about youth, but what about seniors?
Oh, oh, you got over there.
Okay, hi, I'm Tiffany. I live here in St. John's, and I'm a part of Ignite Circus. Our group recently, actually, we got to go and do a show last year. The piece that we did with Circiniq is we actually went to a long-term care facility here, and we performed outside their venue so that they could sit in the windows and watch our fire show, things like that. And we worked with them, got them involved. We did some interviews even, like having like knowledge exchange and things like that. So even if you are, like, this is an opportunity to get that like intergenerational exchange of knowledge, right? We can get storytelling. That's where we were coming from. Like, we could use sound. We had this image of having sounds and sights and smell. We were working particularly with people with dementia, it's been proven that people with dementia, if you use music, it can help. So like putting up a song that helps them, or like different things to trigger a memory for them. That could be part of a show that could include them, even though they're not necessarily able to sit here and talk and say, hey, this is what I need. But you can get them involved and it can get them engaged and things like that. So it's absolutely possible, and it's a good way to, like I said, get that intergenerational exchange of knowledge and keeping our communities connected and just sharing that love. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Well said. And I would also say that, yes, there's the cool thing about Social Circus is we can adapt the program for whatever audience that we have. I've worked with seniors, and we do beautiful things with scarves. I've worked with the Autistic Society in Calgary and the Autism Society, and all we did was we took juggling balls and we piled them up in pyramids. There's different things you can do, and that's kind of the exciting thing about it, is that we can create programs for whoever our audience is, because we tailor the program to the needs.
Yeah, that was my other dream, but I didn't think I could say two, but I will.
Yeah,
is that it could be we all know this, that the social circus can be absolutely for any demographic. It's about play. I work a lot with elders as a therapeutic clown, and they love to play before they die. They just love it.
I think there was is that an answer or a question, Danielle?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of elaborate on what Tiffany was saying there too, and also what Angola and Dean were speaking to. In regards to working with different populations, no matter what that demographic is, whether it's seniors in long-term care, whether it's neurodivergent individuals who would come from an autism society, whether it's people with different types of bodies, it comes back to how circus can be adapted literally for anybody who inhabits a corporal being, right? So it's all about how creative you can make that program to work for the people who want to come into it. And everybody is an expert on their own body, how their own body works. So if you're ever wondering, how can I work with this type of difference because I've never explored that possibility before, it's always helpful to ask the people you're working with what works best with them and what works best for them. And then that learning can also work kind of in both ways.
I'd also offer a slight answer to this question of who are the participants of social circus, and we often say at Cirque Hors Piste, everybody. So you can even imagine people from the corporate world could benefit a lot from a social circus workshop, right? Because very achievement-oriented, results-oriented people, to bring in the playfulness, to bring in the process work, I think could also really have a large impact. So it's really for everybody.
Yeah. Social circus is a very equalizing it's very humbling in ways too. We work with youth at risk, and sometimes you have somebody comes in and has a big attitude, and then they see somebody that's half their size that can walk on stilts, and they can't. And it makes them reflect a little bit. And I've seen that transformation happen where a sense of humility comes in. And so, yeah, it really is, it's for everyone, and we adapt.
Yes. Hey. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question over there? I can get it. You're welcome.
All right. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, all of you. Yeah, I can see you. My question is, here we go. My question is, I was moved by the account of funding, the appeal for funding, and I'm looking at starting a circus residency, have a venue, want there to be social circus a part of it, and think about funding questions a lot. I'm wondering if there's been any vision or what your experience is with shows and their ticketing as being part of the budget, if it's not just an exhibit, here's what we've done, but actually as the point of where the community funds the thing by attending large-scale shows, things like that. It's what your talk kind of brought me to. I started imagining these huge shows, and the community funding happens right there in that moment, and everyone's a part of it because they bought that ticket, and that's part of the price means more than financial. And anyway, that's my
We
question.
use every bit of money that we can in our budgets.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we do those shows.
We use the ticket money big time.
We
Yeah, anything anyone will give us.
Oh no, I know. I mean, what percentage of your budget is shows?
It's very small, and in fact, with Cirqiniq, we do free shows for the community, so we actually don't charge for the shows at all with Cirqiniq. With some of the other shows, social circuses that I've been involved with, we do shows, but it's actually a very small percentage of the overall budget.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's very small.
10%, 5-10%.
Yeah, for us, in terms of our overall budget, it is almost non-existent. But it's still there, and what it does is it quite often helps us if we have a venue, or we have to rent a venue. That's usually what we're trying to do. We did a show in 2017 at one of Calgary's biggest venues. And how we were able to afford it is we actually made deals with IATSE. They give us a discount. We appealed to them on all those different levels. But yeah, ticket funding, I don't think I could run a social circus program depending on ticket funding. But it certainly could be. And that, yeah, let's have a coffee later. We can talk about some ideas I have.
We've done fundraisers where it's like the ticket, so the ticket's a little bit more than our shows because it's specifically a fundraiser, and maybe have something else, like somebody from outside our organization come in to draw in more people or more money. We also try to keep whenever we did, particularly in this one show, it's a venue that normal tickets are $40 to $60, and we charge $15 because we wanted to make the show accessible to all of their families and everyone as well. So the show is accessible as the program. So
I have Tiffany's gonna also answer that question a little bit. Yeah.
I just wanted to speak to, they both just actually spoke on it. Rebecca spoke on it, and so did Dean. Speaking as somebody who I have been homeless at one point in my life, Circus would not have ever been introduced to me if I wasn't able to go to a free show. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at community inclusion and trying to draw people in and things like that, these shows that we're putting on can actually be one of those steps that we can find somebody who wants to come join Circus, or giving them that social, that even that, just going to a movie theater. Some of us can't afford to do that. So having a free show and having that, I just would really, speaking from experience, it's so vital that it's there, because professional circus, the only shows I've been to are things related that have come from Circusina and getting a free ticket. I would never have gone to a professional circus show without the free ticket. So It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. I think that's an important component of it, for sure. Yes. Lauriane.
Hello. From my experience, I'm doing social circus in Sherbrooke, Quebec, and the French. The way we function is that the spirit behind our social circus is never to perform. So to have that expectation, I know it's different for all the communities, but for us, it's I think it's a different spirit from the circus, the show with the money part, at least for me, and for the place where I learned how to play with other people, it wasn't a part of it. The show and the performance and the pressure wasn't a part at all of our game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe it's something to think about in the way you want to form the circus, if you want to do that. Maybe have a discussion about what's the goal and where it's going and what the people want to do also. So yeah.
I would say that any of the big companies, for example, when Cirque du Soleil would come to Calgary when they were still touring, they were very good. Cirque du Monde was very, very good about making sure that we got tickets to the show. So I'd always, take a crew of kids down to see the show or to work with the performers backstage, and that was life-changing, and their heads exploded to see that. So anyone that has a large company, I encourage you to keep that practice open, because that's the place where we can make accessibility and open it up. But yeah.
That's part of the pipeline, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's part of the pipeline, yes.
Anybody else who'd like to? Oh, Karine? Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think that's a part of that can definitely have a nice impact. And also some like professional companies, they develop social circus like projects, and they collaborate with social circus organizations to make these projects. So the example, like in the last few years, we've developed a collaboration with Sept. So they're not a social circus organization, but they want to participate to social circus. They're developing programs, but they do it with us because they know if we think of duration over time, we'll keep the relationship with the youth that are going to participate. So that can be also another model. And another thing we do at Cirque Hors Piste is that we sell some different, we don't like sell tickets for all the reasons that you guys were saying, but sometimes we can sell like our shows to producers, and we use the funding coming out of these shows to support professional development for our young artists, and a part of it goes back to the organization. So that can also be an option.
Yes, Rachel.
Just going back to the pipeline topic, like there's a reason free social circus programs are a huge reason why they're accessible, but that's not the only reason. There's so many reasons why participants stay in social circus and why it's possible to have duration of time, and that's accessibility for like creating that safe space. So that looks like a variety of things, like accessible for disabled bodies, and being process-oriented and not having that pressure of being product-oriented. And there's so many ways that accessibility can look, and it depends on the demographic and the individual. So I think that those are the things that need to be considered in a professional context for that pipeline to be considered. There's a lot of things that would have to be shifted for accessibility to create that, for people to be able to see themselves in that context.
Yeah. Thank you. How much time do we have? Yeah. Maybe we can do one or two more questions from the audience.
Oh yeah, did we have people online?
Over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't turn the camera toward me, but I don't understand why social circus and social schools are so separated. Why aren't all like youth schools social schools? Like why isn't just my child goes to a circus club or whatever? Why isn't that a social circus school?
That is a very fine question, and that is something that what we're working on now. Yeah. That's what we really are trying to do. Places like Quebec have much more of that in schools. It becomes, I know that Cirque has been very prevalent in that. Cirque du Monde is very prevalent in getting into schools. We're working on that. One of the problems that I face in Alberta is, believe it or not, it's liability concerns. Schools don't want to take that on. But I've slowly, over the last 10 years, have been getting into schools. And every year, until the pandemic, of course, we were getting into more schools, and I tend to go back into schools. My goal is to make circus a mandatory thing in schools. And this is interesting. It wasn't the art teachers or drama teachers that brought us into the school. It was the gym teachers when they discovered that more kids show up at school when they're doing gym, and they have more participation in gym than they ever do through the rest of the year. So gym teachers are the ones who are becoming our advocates, and I think that's the way that we should get in, is through phys ed. And when they realize it's a non-competitive thing, all of a sudden all these kids who don't want to be competitive come to the program. So I'm with you. We need to get it in every school.
Can I see? I just want to check in. Was the question more about why isn't any youth circus program a social circus program? Like, what's the difference?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah? Yeah. But that was a good response. Yes, we should get into schools.
I agree with Dean, and I'm going to pretend the question was still like that. And just say also, because we're still doing the how-to, and I did do two-year evaluation processes. One was on circus in schools, not circus schools, in public schools, which wasn't the question, but I'm pretending it is. So I have a 400-person evaluation if anyone is interested in that type of work. I do have an evaluation that says, yes, it works. And then also another one on our social circus. So if people are interested in data, yeah, I have it.
I want to speak to that question. Some of us have gone through the École nationale de cirque, formation formateur, and that actually has a social circus component. And I think any social circus teacher who's gone through a social circus training will inherently bring the social circus into a recreational program, whether they want to or not. Like, it just starts, you start seeing the world in a different way once you encounter social circus. So probably in some of the recreational programs, there's already social circus naturally happening. But yeah, I would 100% agree with you that it would benefit all of us, like nationally, globally, to have social circus just happening. And then I also want to say one thing about social circus is that and just to speak about the in-school thing, yes, I want to see it in schools, but the wonderful thing about it is that it includes everyone. So if you're not in school, come to social circus. If you're on the street, come to social circus. Like, it's got that inclusive, like, we try to dissolve those barriers so that you don't necessarily have to be in an institutionalized program to be able to come to social circus.
Yeah, and I have someone over here, Alex from Cirque Hors Piste, who would like to answer that question as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about the social parts, because we don't always go to, we come first to the social circus to do circus. So a lot of people come to, for example, Cirque Hors Piste, for example, to take meals or to enjoy company of other people. And it's important to think about the fact not all go to school or things like this. For example, we are youth, but we are not like in high school. For example, I am in the 20. It's like this. Yeah. And for example, if all the classes, a lot of classes is really, really expensive about circus. For example, if I go to they have the caserne, it's less expensive, but the other school, I think, is really, really expensive, and I don't have the money, and other people doesn't have the money to go, for example, to the caserne, if it's really cheap and things like this. And it's really hard for some people to get in some place where people got really talented and things like this. So it's really more easy to come and doesn't have the performance and things like this. So, like, this is my answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then just to say the other side of that, not everybody wants to do the social circus too, right? Like, we are up here kind of tooting our horns. Yeah. Not just you, we all are. And it's social circus, so great. But like, some people don't like it, you know? That's true too. Because we do play, and like, there's a space for recreational and community circus too. And then in another thing is, some organization, that's how the funding's structured too. So if you want to just sign up for circus classes, that's helping the social circus, that's the free circus. So I do actually think there's a space for recreational circus too. I think it's important too. It's very different, sure. And some people would prefer that too.
Great, thank you. Maybe I'll open it up to one last question if someone has before we end.
You don't have to.
No, we don't have to. Well, to close up, I want to thank all our participants that came from everywhere across Canada. We come from 13 different communities. And to also LookUp Theatre, who partnered with us with Cirque Hors Piste to make the panel. And to Wonderbolt and the festival, where is Benny? For having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Woo! And thank you to all of you who came and listened to our stories and our experiences. I think that's a big part of what we do, is to share and to be heard. So thank you. Am I forgetting something? No? All right, good. Enjoy the rest of your day.